Hi, I'm Warren Sprouse. You're watching the Bible Forum. We're here every Sunday night from 8 until 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We talk about life, we talk about politics, we talk about the Bible. We put all of that into perspective so that you can understand it from a biblical angle. I want to talk to you about the most angry and the most intolerant religion on the planet. No, no, no. It's not Islam. Author Jack Cashel has written a new book. He's called the book Scarlet Letters. In this book, he describes the unholy rise of progressive neo-Puritanism. And he says, as in old school Puritanism, worshippers achieve a sense of moral worth simply by designating themselves among the elect. No good works are in view, and they're not required. To validate that uncertain status, he says they heap abuse upon the sinner, lest they be thought indifferent to the sin. Rather than simply cataloging the neo-Puritan assaults on reason and liberty, in his book Scarlet Letters, he illustrates how the progressive movement has come to mimic a religion in its structure, but not at all in its spirit. And he labels liberalism as a cult. He labels liberalism as the most angry and intolerant religion on the planet. He chronicles the rise of liberalism through Darwinianism and Margaret Sanger. You know, there's folks trying to get her portrait taken out of the museum in Washington, D.C. now. Referencing Sanger's book, The Pivot of Civilization, Cashel says, quote, "Here, dressed up in all the authority of the new science, appeared a new theology, the promise of a new heaven, an earthly paradise with an impressive scale of rewards for the faithful and the ignominious punishments for the capitalists." End of quote. Working his way through Whittaker Chambers, some of you don't know who Whittaker Chambers is, you got to be old, World War II, a communist who originally saw that human reason was destined to displace God as the creative intelligence of the world. But as he immersed himself in it, he very soon saw too much to remain a communist. From Whittaker Chambers to Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who saw socialism of any type leading to the total destruction of the human spirit and to a leveling of mankind into death. He speaks in his book of Solzhenitsyn going before a body of students at Harvard University, pointing out that America's ruling class had unfortunately seen themselves, quote, the center of everything, end of quote, forgetting what the nation's founding fathers well understood, namely that, quote, man is God's creature, end of quote. Talks about the fact that maybe those graduates who had not heard the word God in at least the last 4 years, except in a swear word, had just heard something they'd never heard in their life. And both Chambers and Solzhenitsyn, recognizing the empty rationalism of the 20th century, how that this had eroded the traditional faith of millions of Western intellectuals, how all of that had been replaced with a smug, self-satisfied belief in the human will, points to the fact that it has bred an ever-increasing intolerance. At its conception, this new theology was self-righteous to the core and keen on punishments, but initially those punishments were reserved for its class enemies. Over time, believers would broaden the roster of sinners. Indeed, contempt for these many and various sinners would become the faith's unifying core. Although Soviet-style communism was in the process of exhausting itself by the time Solzhenitsyn made his Harvard address, man's second oldest faith was mutating and adapting to the environment. It would be the 1960s radicals who would bring this to fruition. African-American author and social critic Shelby Steele watched it happen up close. And like Solzhenitsyn, Steele noted the emergence of a narcissistic new man, a better man than the world has ever seen before. This new man, Steele teased, was, quote, so conspicuously cleansed of racism, sexism, and militarism that he would be a carrier of moral authority and legitimacy, end of quote. Is that what actually happened from this movement? No. The new liberal is pure racist, pure sexist, and pure militarist. Not in the classic sense of those words, but within the new definitions. What they do is they limit the opportunities of those who disagree with them, shouting them down if they have to, Bernie Sanders. They denigrate the reputations of those who dare speak up. Think liberal media. They don't care. They say things. Oh, we're sorry. Print a retraction, but it's out there. They shout down those who refuse to stop speaking. They ridicule those who are the most effective in moving the country away. Rise to the top, and you will attract these people. They see racism in everything, sexism everywhere their philosophy is challenged. They eschew war, and at the same time they build a large military complex at home to control the citizenry. Do we really have a free press? Do we really enjoy the rule of law? Are we free? Step out of line, politically, morally, socially, and see what happens to you.